Simon, thanks for joining us. Could you just tell us a bit about your career in policing and some of its highlights?
Yeah, I'm Simon Cole. I'm Chief Constable of Leicestershire. I've been a police officer since the late 1980s. I joined the police in Birmingham, West Midlands Police, and then I worked in Hampshire, and then I came to Leicestershire. Leicestershire was probably where I wanted to start, but because I'm red green colourblind, they didn't accept my application in the late 1980s. So I joined in Birmingham, and that was where my career started. And here we are now, 33, getting on 34 years later.
Wow, so is it always something that knew you wanted to do, get into policing? Or
No, I was going to be a journalist. And that was my intention growing up. And then I went to university, and while I was at university, I changed my mind and I had the chance to shadow in a police force for a couple of days, and I thought it looked interesting, and I said goodbye to any intent to be a journalist, and I joined the police.
Right. Did you ever think that you'd end up as the Chief Constable?
I suppose I did and I didn't. I mean, it wasn't everything, but it wasn't something to aspire to. So I didn't ever feel that I plotted it out in that way. But I if you'd asked me before I joined, I'd have probably said, "Oh yeah, that sounds quite interesting." As a sergeant or an inspector, then I wouldn't have. I would have said, "No, not likely."
And can you tell us about some of your early years on the beat then? What kind of things did you get up to?
I worked shifts in Birmingham city centre. That's where I started as a constable, so foot patrol, and in those days very different sort of licensing hours, so you would have the kind of everybody trying to get out from the pubs and into the clubs, and the clubs would then all shut around 2 o'clock in the morning, and I mean it would be crazy busy at that point. And then I worked as a sergeant in the south of Birmingham, and then actually I worked a lot of my time in West Midlands in Handsworth, so I was an inspector in Handsworth in the inner city, and I then went back there as a superintendent later, dealing with some quite sort of tough issues, some gang issues, and that was where I kind of cut my teeth as a police officer.
And what qualities do you think that you bring to the role then that attracted you to policing?
I don't know. I sort of always feel it's for other people to say, really. I mean, I suppose I've got a reasonable amount of common sense, and I mean, one of the great things about the job is that you deal with people, and you deal with people within the force, and you work with people within local communities, and I get a buzz out of dealing with people and working with people and talking with people.
What do you think about the reaction? Because a lot of people have got good things to say about you. What does it feel like when you hear that kind of feedback from people?
Well, it's very kind. I think it's important you stay grounded about it all. And some people have said some lovely things, and you and I were at an event 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, and some people said some very nice things, which I deeply appreciate. But I think you need to stay grounded and remember that there'll be some people with different views as well. But it was very kind of people.
And have you enjoyed working in Leicestershire in particular? What do you enjoy about working? Because it's quite a diverse community.
Yeah, I mean, Leicester is where my parents and grandparents were all from. I did quite a bit of my growing up around Leicestershire. So as a small child, I was in Market Bosworth. I went to school in Oadby. So it's a place that I know. And what you say is right. The diversity of the place, rural, urban, all the different communities, the different challenges, they are, really, really broad, and that is hugely appealing. That you can be dealing with such varied issues whilst working in a place that I feel I've got a connection to.
And what do you feel have been the main challenges during your time as the Chief Constable?
Look, I mean, there's been a whole set of things. I mean, organisationally, the pressure of austerity, really significant pressure on the budget at a time when local communities always want to see more of the police, and at the time we were getting smaller quite quickly. COVID, a worldwide pandemic, not probably something you expected to deal with, as well as all of the other challenges, be that about violent crime or acquisitive crime, the things that the police have to deal with. But I think COVID was a real challenge, both for our role in society and our role across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, but also in terms of within the organisation as well, because we had to carry on. We couldn't pause and stop. We had to carry on. We were kind of trying to issue PPE. We were trying to deal with things in a very different way, with little or no notice quite often. So COVID, I think, has been a really significant challenge. It's been a challenge for all of us in different ways, but professionally, a big and significant ask.
And for you personally, what have you been your proudest achievements?
I think in a way it's for others to say what those things are. I mean, I think it's really important that we do the day-to-day, that we do the 24/7 every day. We're out there trying to make a positive difference. Along the way there have been some very real and very specific things that have happened, ranging from the disorder back in 2011. We had the significant protests around that time as well in the city. We've had things, Hinkley Road, the helicopter crash, a whole set of things that have been very, very challenging to deal with. But I think it's for others to say what's been achieved, not necessarily me.
So how would you sum up your career?
Goodness, well, I often, when people retire, I ask them what they would say to their younger self as they joined, and I suppose I would say to my younger self, keep going, do join. It's been hugely rewarding. It's had significant challenges at times, but overall, I think that I've had the opportunity to try and make the world a better place. If that doesn't sound too sort of, I don't know, cheesy. I mean, what we do is try and make the world a better place by how we go about our business, by how we patrol, by how we safeguard people, by making sure we target offenders who are causing harm to communities, and that's what we're trying to do all the time.
And how do you feel about your retirement? Are you quite sad, or is there part of you that's sad, or?
It's a bit mixed at the moment. I think talking to people, that's pretty normal. On the one hand, it is. It's a bit sad. On the other hand, it's quite exciting, and to see what other opportunities there may be, and I'll be able to put some time into things that maybe I haven't been able to put time into in the same way. But it is a bit of a mixed emotion at the moment as I'm sat talking to you.
What do you think you'll miss most about the job?
It's a total cliche, but the people. We have people who do remarkable things, and being in and around them is really stimulating and good, and that's what I'll miss.
So it's going to be a new chapter for you, and what we'd be looking forward to doing with your free time in your retirement?
I need to get fit again. I'm looking forward to not necessarily having a phone that rings at strange times of the day and night, and I'm just looking forward to find that I'm assured there is life outside of the police, and I'm looking forward to finding it.
And if we just go back to that question that I asked, do you prefer your years working as Chief Constable, or do you look more fondly back on your years on the beat?
I don't think there's a right answer to that, really. I mean, I loved what I did as a constable. I worked with some great people. I'm still in touch with some of them, and I think that we did some good things and we made a difference. You know, as chief, you know, it's a very different role, but they're both roles that are rewarding. And you know, I think you know, there are days when you think, oh, I wish I was still driving a patrol car around, and then there are days when you think, well, actually, I was able to make a difference today because of the decisions that I made and the things that I did. So, you know, they've happened at very different stages of life, as it were. I mean, you know, in my 20s, I loved the adventure of being out and about on patrol. I thought it was fantastic, you know, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Was it kind of the buzz then, kind of thing, as the young
Yeah,
man?
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You know, and answering the radio and not knowing what you were going to find when you got there, and you know, trying to catch people and chasing people and you know, doing all the things that were kind of the action bit. And then, you know, now it's over 30 years later. You know, one of the things with the police is you can grow up in the job, so you probably change a bit as you go through, and so now some of the more kind of cerebral challenges interest me in a way that maybe they wouldn't have done as a young officer.
And what's the most unusual thing that happened to you whilst you're on duty?
I don't know. I mean, you kind of go through the whole range. You know, you get the hen knights who want to, you know, all be photographed with a cop. I've been assaulted. I've been, you know, as in physically assaulted. You know, there's a whole gamut of experiences that you have that are part of being in the police. You deal with really unusual jobs, but there's a theme throughout all of it, which is, you know, people who want support or help from the police. So, I mean, you know, you have some fun along the way. I mean, some of the things we've dealt with, I mean, it was pretty hard. Whilst there were professional responsibilities around things like the Leicester City Victory Parade, it was pretty hard to do that without it being fun and without that sense of, wow, what an amazing thing this is. So all sorts along the way,
And would you say crime's gone up and down in Leicestershire, or is that a hard one to answer?
Well, I mean, the crime survey nationally would say that crime is going down, but the crime being reported to the police is going up. So there's sort of two different things going on at the same time. I mean, one of the challenges for us is we don't just deal with crime. You know, crime is probably about a fifth of the workload that we have. With the other things that we deal with around safeguarding, might be about road traffic and things that take place on the road. So crime isn't the only measure, but clearly it's a focus for us in terms of the impact that has on local communities, the kind of neighbourhood crimes, inquisitive crimes. Make a difference to local communities, and it's our job to try and prevent them and to deal with offenders.
And finally, how do you feel about your, you know, the person that's taken over, Rob Nixon? Do you think he's got, well, obviously you're humble, you're not going to say, but he's got big, some people would say he's got big shoes to fill.
Look, Rob's going to be acting up after I step away. He's a really talented guy. And you know, I'm sure that he will give it absolutely all that he's got. He knows the place well. He's been in the force for all of his service, so you know, 20 odd years. And you know, I wish him well.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.